Hello, everyone. Dr. Frankie here. Welcome to Love, Laughs, and Lessons. And here we are again with someone amazing, another matchmaker in our matchmaker series where we can ask all the questions and learn about what it looks like to work with a matchmaker and the behind the scenes of a matchmaker. So we'll introduce her shortly here. But also, for those of you that are not familiar with who I am, I'm a clinical psychologist and a board certified sex therapist, and also the CEO of Little Gay Book Matchmaking and Little Black Book Matchmaking. And I had a podcast for years solo, and now I have a podcast again that we're relaunching, and I've got an amazing co-host who will introduce herself right now.
Well, I am super happy to be working alongside Dr. Frankie. My name is Denise Ray. I am the Client Service Director for Little Gay Book and Little Black Book, and also a matchmaker. I am equally excited to introduce our guest today, Keita Adams, and she is more than just a name. She's a catalyst for meaningful connections within the LGBTQ plus community with an intuitive grasp of human behavior and relationships. Keita brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the conversation as the mastermind behind Queer Connections. Keita has dedicated herself to fostering genuine and lasting relationships, aligning perfectly with our mission, this podcast and the series. So welcome, Keita. Tell us how it all began.
Oh man. I like to tell people that I've been thinking about love since I was 5, right? As crazy as that sounds, but I actually saw like my parents go through a divorce, and so when that happened, I started to think about like what kept people together, and just I was always a kid that asked a bunch of questions. And then my mom, I watched my mom. I grew up around my mom's family. My mom has 7 sisters. None of them have healthy relationships, and I just kept asking myself why, like what actually keeps people together. And so that kind of, started my journey in general, just about love. I started coaching full time in 2020. I was teaching high school at the time, and I was like, I'm not doing this COVID thing. So I started to coach in relationships full time, and matchmaking came along just because when I was working with my clients on coaching, it really became an issue of having the time to go out and get, be on apps and finding people of quality. And then I got connected through a couple of matchmakers from Clubhouse. We all, rest in peace, Clubhouse. I don't know if people are still on that thing or what.
But
yes.
It was cool while I was here.
Yes. Like a storm, and
then left just as quick. Yeah. But I got connected with a couple of matchmakers on that and started to collaborate. And I noticed there really wasn't a queer person, or from my knowledge, I didn't know there was a queer person of color that was like specifically doing that. It was like new. And so I got introduced to it, and one of my clients just asked me to do it. And so I was like, all right, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, even if there is like there's always space for one more person and for someone that can relate to me and all of that. And so I really just jumped into matchmaking because there was a need for it.
Yeah, there's definitely a need for it, and it's so nice to have more people in this queer space that are matchmaking, because it was lonely out here for all those years. I was like crickets all by myself.
yes. And I always watched Millionaire Matchmaker when I was younger too. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And I didn't even really think it was like possible. And then I got introduced, and I was like, all right, I see you, universe. Let's go.
And that's how many years ago?
That I've only been matchmaking for the last like year and a half. I was coaching I kind of resisted the matchmaking piece. I really like the coaching piece. But it just became a need, and I was being asked for it. My clients were like, just do it, just help, you just never know. And so I jumped in and I did it.
You're in the grinding phase, girl.
Yes, absolutely.
The coaching and the matchmaking, because they need one another. And I don't know or understand how people do it separately. I don't understand to just do matchmaking without the coaching. We've got to, like, we're all works in progress, and we all need to help.
Right.
We got blind spots, all of us. I got blind spots.
Absolutely.
been a psychologist for 21 years. Like,
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, the way I do it now is I don't match make without the coaching piece. And so when people are coming in, they're like, I just want you to find me somebody. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. And you're still bringing you and past and trauma and pains and exes and whatever else with you along with you. So you're going to need those tools because I can hand you this person, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work out automatically because there's some blind spots, like you said before, that really need to be worked out, and you need that self-awareness to be able to interrupt it.
yeah. So what's are you a credential coach? Tell me, you're a dating coach, right?
Yes, I am. So I'm a certified dating coach and a certified matchmaker. I got certified through the Global Love Institute, like I'm sure everybody has, right?
That's where Denise got it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but the coaching piece, I love that a lot, but I do see the value in matchmaking as well.
So give us an idea of like how do you work with clients? So do you work with them for 12 months? Do you have a free database? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so my it's interesting. My database was free for a whole year, and a bunch of people jumped in, and I meet with everybody that comes into my database. And so I think like in that year's time, I had about 300 or so people join. And so I was meeting every single person, and because I want to make sure it's a right fit, it's a right fit for them, because this is about connecting people with quality matches, not just like, I mean, if you want to hook up, cool, go on a dating app. And so, but right now it's currently my database is not free. It's like $99 to like get in. But so like I work with people from all over the US. Anybody that's over 30. It's interesting. I have a lot of older clients now. They're like in their 50s and 60s, and I love them to death. They're like the absolute best. And I
Wait, what's wrong with
What's wrong? What? 50 and 60 is older?
it's old. It's seasoned. Let me say that. It's seasoned. But I love it.
I love how Keita, she didn't even know, Denise, that you're in that age category.
Yeah. I did it. Look, black don't crack. You look
like...
wonderful. You look wonderful. I didn't know.
White crack, let me tell you, it cracks.
Because I was like nodding. I was like, wait, me older?
Well, I think because like I'm almost 40, and so people don't, but I don't know, apparently I don't look like it. I look like a kid. And so when people know that I work with people that are older, they're like, what? Like, what do you know about that? And I'm like, look here, I will school you, ma'am. Miss, so I'm polite about it, but they're my favorite clients to work with, because I think there's such a maybe they don't believe it can happen, especially if they came out later in life and things like that. And then when it starts to happen and they're starting dating, you can just see the confidence come up in them. So it's wonderful.
And the apps suck for them. Like they suck for everybody, but the older we are, the worse from what I sense from clients, the worse experience they have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have to walk them through it. I build their profile with them, all that when we do that. But it's mainly just like, the matchmaking piece is so wonderful because it does give them another outlet and another avenue. And then of course, my clients in my database are BIPOC only. I do have a couple of, palm colored people in my database, but for me and for the people in my database, it's really about like how educated they are, how much work that they've done, have they dated a person of color before. But it's predominantly a BIPOC, a person of color space, just because when I work with Black lesbians and queer women, it's like they get swiped on the lease on dating apps. And so that's why where I will coach anybody, really having that matchmaking piece where it's specifically for women of color, non-binary and trans people of color was a really big piece for me in starting this, and being able to take another piece of the pie and be able to say like, hey, I'm here for you as well, because there's still some parts missing inside of that.
I love that niche, because I feel like since I was the face of the company for so many years and I'm white, I appear white even though I'm Middle Eastern. I feel like a lot of folks that are not white, they would just be like, oh, she can't relate to me, or
Yeah.
they don't come through as much. Now they do more so, but I'm always like, we're open to all, right? But it feels, you want to know that the person you're working with gets you and understands the cultural differences and all of that. And I think sometimes that has been a little bit of a barrier for, Little Gay Book for queer folks.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I have, and I've dated white girls before in my life, white women before. And so I have that piece too of like, I know what it's like to be supported, but also not to be supported and having be ignored. And then when I really started matchmaking, it was like 2020, everything about race was like heightened up. And so when I had people come into my database, they were like, I don't want to date any white people. And so, but now we're, I do little workshops with the people in my database and other places about how, it is possible for a white person to be a good partner in relationships and different things like that. It really is about like educating in all areas, because we are so certain of how our relationship should go, even though we haven't been taught anything about it. But we're like, I know. And so for me, education is a big piece.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And you said something so powerful, like we're so certain about what we don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. And what we
exactly.
haven't proven to ourselves.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Exactly.
So good. So good. Yeah.
So it's definitely a constant shift, right? And I think that's one of the hardest parts about matchmaking, because people come in and they're like, find me a partner. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna need you to like adjust a little bit on those expectations you have or on your requirements. But the biggest part is gonna be on the physical piece, because we're again so certain about what our partner is supposed to look like. And I'm like, but we get shocked and surprised every day by that.
Don't people have like I find that they have unrealistic ideals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I tell people that, right? I'm like, you have to look at how what you find physically attractive is how it's being impacted by social media. Like if you get on TikTok and you're watching all those thirst traps, now you have a particular view of what you find attractive, mainly because it's being thrown in your face. And so now when you go in to talk to someone about what you're physically attracted to, you're giving me that thirst trap. You're not giving me actually like who it is that you're attracted to, because a lot of times we don't even think about it. And so when people come in and they're like, and I introduce them to people or I show them photos, because I do show photos, they're like, that's not who I'm normally attracted to. And my number one question always is, well, how is that going?
Art.
And they're like, well.
I think it's important for us to be able to confront that, because we're not going to be successful. They're not going to be successful if they're not honest about that and really trust us as matchmakers to change a pattern, because we tend to be attracted to the same type again and again. And if that was working for them, they wouldn't be coming to us for support.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And so, but they love to say, well, I like what I like. And I'm just like, yeah, but liking what you like got you here. So
and that's going to keep you single.
Yeah, exactly. So let's try to adjust a little bit. Like I don't go off and go completely off of, who they are physically attracted to. Like they'll send me pictures and we'll talk about, who it is they're physically attracted to. But then I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take that into consideration, but it's more about values and the things that actually make a relationship work. So gotta be willing to adjust on that physical piece.
So that thirst trap. Sorry, Denise.
Go ahead.
Thirst trap. So for those of us who are a little older, can you describe that a little bit, like how people are falling for this thirst trap thing.
Oh yeah, well I definitely I don't really get them on my TikTok, maybe it's because I'm married and I'm like, no, as soon as I see one. Yeah, it's just like people get on and it's like they do the little smolder look and they're like, they do the little smirk and it's like supposed to be all like sexy. Maybe they don't have a shirt on, whatever it is, like trying to show the abs and the muscles. And I think what's attracted to that is you have a certain amount of people that will say that's attractive, that looks good, and it gets pushed out. And so then more people start doing things like that, and then it gets pushed out. Now all of a sudden your entire For You page on TikTok is all of these thirst traps of these people, and then you're like, oh my gosh, they're so confident. But they were confident for like 10 seconds. That video was 7 to 10 seconds long. That does not mean that they're a confident person overall, but we tend to take in what's familiar. And so the more we see it, the more we're like, oh, I like that. I do like that. They're confident. And we start creating things about who those people are from a 7-second video.
Also, aren't they using filters?
Yes.
Angles?
Yep.
Angles,
Filters,
lighting.
Yes, all kinds of stuff. All the sparkles and stuff in the heart.
So this last weekend, I was dropping my son off at college in North Carolina, and I stayed at a beautiful hotel. And I read the reviews, and it was like, oh, for those of you that are influencers, you'll love to take photos in this hotel. I was like, that's so great. It didn't even occur to me to take photos in the hotel.
Yep.
When did that become a selling point to the
That's
hotel?
a selling point. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh, it absolutely is, because then they'll pay influencers to come in and take all of these gorgeous, like, filtered pictures, and then that just sells the hotel even more. So oh yeah, it's a big business. So but that's how people get famous on TikTok too, because they're attractive in some way, shape, or form, and then more people will say, hey, I like that, and then all of a sudden the more you like it, the more you get. So you're getting fed, kind of the same thing with Disney movies. We're getting fed a story, and then we take that on as truth, and we say that's who I'm attracted to. And so that's how we get caught up in that physical attraction piece.
Yeah. It's the same, like with social media has done what commercials used to do. They're forcing their agenda, and it's this narrative that we're buying into of the standard of beauty or whatever it is that they're trying to sell. It's just unfortunate now that we've become the product.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, people have to be aware of that when they come into matchmaking, of like, you kind of been duped a little bit, so we have to shift out of TikTok land and Instagram land and really ground ourselves in reality. And the reality is, you think you know what you want, but probably not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's your ideal client? Put that out there. Like, what is, for our listeners, they're thinking about becoming a matchmaking client. How can they be successful in the way in which they show up for you?
Yeah. First and foremost, like, just be coachable, be willing to what I call, like, just try it on, right? Like, it's just like, just try on the shirt, see how it works, but like, let's try on this technique, let's try on going, swiping a little bit different, let's try on going on a date with somebody else, right, that you probably wouldn't normally go on a date with. So first and foremost, being coachable, someone that wants to have fun. Like, when I plan dates, they're going to be fun dates, and they're going to be, pretty active dates. Even if we're doing a Zoom date, I plan all those dates so it doesn't turn into an interview. So kind of have to be flexible and flowing and fun a little bit, so we can bring that out in you. Obviously a person of color, over 30, and then someone that is going to be really clear about and be willing to work on their requirements and those big pieces, and be willing to adjust how you're actually dating, because we're going to lead our dates from our requirements, not just going with our body and what our body feels and all of that. I really work on balancing, the head and the heart when I work with my clients. And so being willing to bring in both pieces and have a little bit of fun with that, and commit to the process. Typically the process is a year. And so be willing to commit to the process and know that it may not happen in 2 months or 6 months or whatever it is, but being willing to stick and stay and learn and grow and reflect, and know that everything that we go through, match or no match at the end of it, there's some success in it in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to something that you had said earlier. It always intrigues me with matchmakers that show pictures. Why did you decide to show pictures? Because it sounds like um, a lot of what you do isn't about the physical, right? So
Right.
why did you make that decision to show pictures?
One, I think transparency is important. And the physical piece, as much as we may not want to admit it, is a big part of it. But I want everything that I do to be transparent. I want people, and then I want people to really see where their own limitations may be, right? And so it may be in the profile and what they reading the profile, but it may also be in the pictures. But I don't want to hold anything back. I think we are living in a world where there's a lot of misinformation and we're not really sure about this thing. And I think, there are some people out there that would be open to not seeing the pictures, but I just wanted to put everything out there and just to not hold anything back. And so not only do I do pictures, but I have people do videos. And so I now show videos to people as well. So it connects to other senses. So not only are they seeing the person, they get to hear their voice, they get to see their mannerisms. And
Mhm.
living in the world of TikTok and Instagram Reels, that's what we're used to seeing anyway.
But that's key. I think
Yep.
static photos, one-dimensional photos is just
Yep.
we project and we have
Yep.
preconceived ideas. And if
Yep.
somebody slightly reminds us of somebody else, an ex or somebody, a friend that we are, no longer friends with, left a bad taste in our mouth, we project onto the photo.
Yeah,
So I think that's
absolutely.
brilliant to do little video clips and capture their personality, their
Yep.
vibe. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I actually send the profile first. So I don't send videos or pictures because I just don't think anybody should be in possession of somebody else's pictures, right? And that's for safety reasons. I'm really big on safety. We have to for the queer community. And
Mhm.
so I send the profile first and they let people love the profile, right? They always love the profile. And then they come back and they see the picture or the video and they're like, oh, they're just not what like I kind of expected. So it's like immediately we have an opportunity for coaching,
Yep.
right? Because now we've picked up on yet another blind spot. And so, like I said, I'm real big on learning and I'm real big on the coaching piece. And so with that transparency and with the way that I do profile, then pictures and videos, it does often create a coaching opportunity and for them to see that where this kind of physical blind spot is and how we can adjust on that.
That's good. That's good. We don't show pictures. Uh,
Oh, why? I'm intrigued. I don't know if I've met somebody that hasn't shown. I actually have, but I'm intrigued why you don't show pictures.
Yeah. We used to early on for the
Yeah.
first couple of years, we showed photos. And what we found was that people got in the way of themselves. It was
Yep.
just like, again, these preconceived ideas, these assumptions being made. Like for example, I had a client who really wanted to meet a successful butch and the woman who I wanted to introduce her to was an attorney in a very conservative law firm, and this is like
Mm,
14, this is 13 years ago now.
yeah.
Back then you had to wear suits, you had to look feminine even if you were
Mhm.
butch in that environment. So she had her suit on, she had short hair, attractive, and she had pearls on. And my client,
Yeah.
and my client was like,
Yeah.
oh no, 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 oh, I can't date somebody who wears pearls.
Not the
I said,
pearls.
not the pearl.
she's wearing that because she has to. That's not, she
Yeah.
wouldn't be wearing those pearls. She
Yeah.
could not get it out of her head. She had already had it stuck on it. And it really colored the way she experienced that first date. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is it. That was the break for me. That was that I was, at that point I changed my mind. I was not going to show photos anymore.
Yeah. Do you think that it has shifted a little bit just because I feel like we're a little bit more out, and even though the world is the way that it is, people are a little bit more out and comfortable with themselves. So do you think it shifted in that aspect?
It depends on the age.
Mm,
So no,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
Gen
Yeah.
Z,
Seasoned people.
right? Millennials, sure. Not
Sure.
Gen
Mhm.
X and older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about, we had this, like, think like a couple of weeks ago, right, Dr. Frankie? And you were saying like the old mindset, you know, I think we were matching, we were talking about a woman that she was butch, but she was looking for someone more femme or something like that,
Hmm.
remember?
Yeah.
I can't remember the details, but it was like, no, they're gonna view it this way because
Yeah.
it's the old way of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Like the way that, somebody identifies in the community, if they identify
Oh yeah.
as bisexual and they're part of Generation X or older,
Oh
that's
yeah.
a no-go. If
Yeah.
That's the,
whereas a
yeah.
Gen Z, they don't care. They're like, bring
No.
it on.
Well,
Hell, are they flu?
Yeah.
Are they
Do they have a
pan?
job? It's fine.
Can we
Yeah.
check off all those boxes?
Yeah.
Because they see it as like openness and
Hmm.
right, wanting to bring love in and have experiences. Whereas my generation and older, it's seen as a threat. I
Yeah.
don't want to be an experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the photo thing, I hear you and I understand why a lot of matchmakers choose to show photos. And I get it. But
Yeah.
for us, it just feels like we wouldn't be here 15 years later, being the number one, like in the
Yeah.
world actually, because we were like the first ones on the scene. So
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here this long if we weren't really doing a good job at listening to what our clients want and helping them figure out what they need and balancing
Right.
those two things. So that's usually how I explain it. It's like, just trust us. We know what we're doing, and we've been doing it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. I definitely have like some clients on a case by case basis. Like if I know going in that they really want to focus on the physical, I'm going to tell them I'm going to send you on dates you're not going to know what they look like. And typically just because I explain that, I'm like, I want to take your eyes out of it. Like, because that hasn't been helping. Typically when I explain that, they're pretty open to it. And so they're like, okay. They're like, I trust you. And I'm like, that's what this process is about first and foremost. And that's why I meet with everyone, because I'm like, you have to trust that I know what I'm doing. You have
That's
to
right.
trust that I hear you and that, and I know in what you're looking for, and I'm doing everything I can to like vet for those important things. And so just trust me. And so typically when I've done that, like, hey, I'm going to send you on a blind date, they've been okay with it and it's worked out.
Wow, I would not have expected that. If they're used to seeing photos and then you're like, look, we've done this a few times. It's not working out well. Now I'm going to coordinate a blind date. I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised they're cool with that, because I love hearing that, because we need to be more flexible.
Yeah.
Like, being rigid in any way in life makes our lives much more difficult to navigate. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
But
Thanks.
it speaks to also what you said, your clients trusting you and, you choosing them and them choosing you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's a mutual choice. We want to work with you as much as you want to work with us. And it's got to be a
Absolutely.
great fit. And when you walk into and you sit down with a matchmaker, you are handing your heart over, but we're receiving it with care and open arms too.
Right.
Like, we're not going to be reckless with you, and
Right.
understand that part. We want it probably more for you than you want it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just part of like people, again, kind of getting out of their own way. I think there's been a lot of aspects of people's lives where they've trusted and it hasn't worked out. And so this kind of feels like the same thing of like being in a relationship. Like, we are in a relationship, right? And so, so here I am giving you my heart, and I'm trusting you with it. And there's still that chance of disappointment. And so cultivating that relationship between, me and my clients is just as important as finding them the relationship, their ideal relationship and their forever relationship. So
Yeah.
just know you're gonna have to like, show yourself a little bit in this process for those of you that are listening.
For
Yeah,
sure. And
vulnerability, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
big. You've got to be vulnerable, but you have to be vulnerable to fall in love. You can't go into
Yeah.
it guarded, you know,
Yeah.
as
also
much.
not
Yeah.
to assume, right, just
Yeah.
because you have the money to pay for our programs and
Mhm.
that we're going to take you on. I think it's important, right? We know
Yeah.
to be successful, it's got to be a good match between matchmaker and clients from the
Mm-hmm.
outset. So, you know, I'm sure you're as selective, it sounds like, as we are, in that we don't take on many clients unless we feel like we can successfully match them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some people are like in Vermont and they're like, I want to find somebody in Vermont. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
And you're queer? I don't think so.
yeah, I'm like, do you want to move? Like, do you plan on moving? Because that's probably the only way. But yeah, unfortunately, there are, you know, circumstances like that. And we're like, I can help you maybe on a dating app, coach you a little bit. But Vermont, that's rough. But I've had clients like that or
And
That's it. Yeah, go ahead,
potential.
Denise.
and it sounds like, because I heard you say earlier too that you work with people to be on the dating apps. Do you help them write their profiles and things like that?
I
Yeah.
do. I do. I help them write their profiles, you know, pick out pictures. I really like Hinge just because you can also do video and all of their different features. So you can do polls. And I always have people have like, you know, a weed out question or something. And so I help them set up their profile and their pictures. We also talk about how to swipe differently and what that looks like. Sometimes we'll do a little swiping session together. And then we're talking about communication. So I help them message of like how are you messaging and then how do we go from the app to an actual date, but making sure you have the information that you need instead of just going on all of these random dates unless you're a baby gay and you just need to date. And I'm like, do it.
Right. Go
Yeah.
crazy. Go crazy.
Yeah. Go crazy with it.
Do you
That's
have
another really cool offering right there, that you do dating. Yeah, you help people make a profile, select the photos. I think we're objective. So that's
Yeah.
so valuable and helpful. That's not a service that we do, but I have thought about it. Like, how cool.
It's really cool. The biggest thing that I find with that is that most people set up their profile like one time and then they never go back and revise it. Or if they revise it, they're only changing the pictures. And I'm like, you got to do a little bit more than that, right? And so we go through the entire profile, what they want to be conveyed, and then if I cannot ask them 3 or 4 questions from their profile, we revamp it and redo it
yeah.
because you want to, you know, to have an enticing where people are starting a conversation about your actual profile or even from your pictures.
And profiles from way back when, because I used to write profiles. That's what I, yeah.
Nice.
They're so different than they are now, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it was almost like no one really read it. And I'm hoping that it's moving to a place where people are starting to read more, be a little
They
bit more
are.
conscious about. Okay, good, good.
They are. They are. And then I think with Hinge, it's easier because it's just like a scroll effect on Hinge. So it's not like you're just looking at pictures and then you have to go into a profile. You're putting your pictures throughout your actual profile or videos. And so that's why I always encourage people, you know, to use that particular app just because it'll give you the entire profile. So people really have to read in some way. And then you can reply on like a picture or a video or some other piece of it. So
Similar to the way our social media is set up.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Do you have any like hard or soft rules? So now you have a client and they're going on a date. Do you, or tips or tools? Let me say it that way. Tips or
Ooh.
tools for dating.
Oh man. First and foremost, I always have people have a checkpoint. So what's the thing that you need to know after the date to know that you want to continue to see them again? A lot of times we just go in and we're going off of our body. And it's cool. Like if your body feels all tingly hanging out with them, that's fine. But what's the thing that you need to know to know you want to continue on with them? What is it about their character or their values, or do they energize you, like that kind of stuff, right? So always have some type of checkpoint. I say have checkpoints all throughout dating, so you're not just ending up in a relationship with someone 3 months later and you look over like, how'd you get here? Like have those checkpoints for sure all throughout. If you get nervous or you're worried about flirting or the conversation, sit next to the person instead of across for them. That's like one of my biggest things because most people are nervous. And so I'm like, okay, cool, sit next to them. So you're not just staring at them in their eyes, you know, and it's awkward eye contact.
Oh, but
And
then
then
they're touching each other's bodies. Like, what?
I know, I know,
I
I
mean,
know. That's what
Touch
we
my
want.
leg.
That's what we
that's
want,
that's
right?
what we
Yes.
want.
That's
Yeah.
what we want. That's what people don't think about that when I'm like, and they're like, and I've had people tell me like, oh, we sat next to each other. Next thing you know, we were like holding hands, and I'm like, I know. Like that's what I tell you.
Because you're closer in
Because
proximity.
you're
It's
closer
hard to reach
together.
over the tape, right across the table. Then you
Yes,
just right there, you
yes.
slide it
Or
right
yes.
on the
Side is so much more comfortable. So, one thing I always recommend too is going for a walk for that reason as
Yep.
well. So, like,
Yep.
now we're not just sitting face to face staring at each other and you're
Mm-hmm.
wondering if I have something on my teeth or whatever. Now I'm
Yep.
side by side, and the scenery now is the focal point. It doesn't have
Right.
to be about what we're saying, it could be about what we're seeing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love it. When I think about rules, I don't really have any hard rules. My only rule is that people don't exchange contact information on the date. And that's because when I do post date calls, and so when they have their post date feedback call with me, the questions that I ask, maybe they may realize that it was a cool connection, but maybe not romantic. And so when I first started, what I had was they exchanged contact information, and then they talked to me, and like a friend said something to them or something. And then they're like, yeah, I don't think they're a match. And I'm like, but y'all exchange phone numbers. So now this person who wants to be a match is going to be texting like, what happened? What's this? And so I have to remind people of that pretty often, of like, do not exchange contact information. I will send it to you if it's a match. Like, just hang off on it, reflect after the date, all of that. And then I usually put them on a 2-hour time limit for the date.
For the first
Because
date.
for the first date, yes, because queer people will be on a date for 24 hours. And I'm like, go home.
need 2 hours if you let them.
Yes, yes. So I'm like, 2 hours max, y'all, like, time it, let's go. And so that people have a hard time with that one, on like, especially on good dates. And I'm like, I'll text, be like, how's it going? We're almost at that 2-hour mark.
Oh,
Go
shoot.
home.
You'll text them on their
I
date?
I
Oh,
will. I
okay,
would be
you're not
like,
messing around.
go home. Well, because if
Go
not,
home.
yeah, because if not, they're
Leave
spending
something,
all their
leave something
they're spending all their time together, and then next time I talk to them, they're in love and they're about to move in together, and I'm like, hold on.
You got them on GPS. You're like, share your location.
I do air tag them, like, whatever. Give me your air tag. I want to know your location at all times.
You're like, I'm here to set you up for success. We're not here for you to like indulge and follow your like id, which is the urge and the desire, regardless of any reasoning.
Yes. I'm like, have a little bit of time. Like, be mysterious. I was like, this is gonna have you be mysterious. Just walk away. You know what I mean? Just go home. Do not spend all that time together. You need a breather. Yes, reflect. If I could send, I sometimes will send them that, like, if they ever responded to my text, I'll send them a meme like, hey, it's about that time. It's about that time. I haven't had to do that a lot, but I will. I will.
Funny.
So
what about alcohol?
I actually have not had an issue with that. I just tell people like, you are an adult and I'm not going to baby you, but let's just limit it, excuse me. Edit. Yeah, I just tell them like, let's limit that. So don't go out on a binger, please.
Right.
And so I haven't had any issues. With that.
And so I'm gonna ask, what about sex?
No, I don't tell people no, right? I don't tell them no, but that's where that 2-hour time limit comes in, right? And that's when I go to check in, like, hey, how's it going? Let's do that. And so they may be drawn in and pulled into it, but I think I come in and interrupt it in some way, shape, or form. But I tell them, you are an adult and you're a grown person, but here's going to be the effect, right? If you do, give it up on the first date, I need you to clink lock down, like, hold on, just hold off a little bit. And so we talk about those things. But I think in the beginning, taking out the even in the conversation with the photos, doing that also rolls into the conversation if you were to have, sex on the first date. And so it really is like you want someone to be with you, not with what you did for them that night or what they did for you. And now the connection is skewed. And
Right.
so having that, that conversation prior to is important. But I know people well enough to not go, don't do that, because if you do that, then they'll just gonna go do the thing.
Do it.
You'll do
Like
it.
a kid. Sometimes that part of ourselves, that kid, childlike, wanting to be rebellious part of ourselves is definitely there.
Yeah.
What to do.
Yeah.
So Kita,
Exactly.
how can folks find you? Like,
oh man. One, I'm all over TikTok. So you can find me on TikTok at Queer Connections. And then Instagram. My Instagram is different. It's actually Kita Adams Coaching. So you can find me there, and that'll link you to YouTube, podcast. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, YouTube podcast. My podcast, Queer
Kita,
Connections.
Kita.
Yes, KITA, and then Adams ADAMS, and then coaching on Instagram.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
Today.
So happy.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on. I told you, Dr. Frankie, I'm like fangirling. Like because I've been like, even when I was looking about like doing coaching, doing matchmaking, all of that stuff, everything about love. Like you've been in the game for a really long time, and so like I was scoping out. So I'm excited to be on this show with you. So thank you very much for having me.
You saying that. Yeah. And I'm thrilled to have you on the scene, and we can refer to you, and
Absolutely.
good luck. I mean, you're pounding right now. So I know I was there. It's a grind. Yeah, but we need you. So keep working hard, and I love your approach. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Your clients are lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you. They've been great. They bring me so much life and joy, because I just want to put more love into the world, and they give me an opportunity to do that. So
they take a little bit of a risk, right? It's a risk anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't guarantee anything other than that we're gonna really work hard for them.
Yeah.
But you're also just building, so it's hard because there's not a lot of history there. So kudos to those clients. Like even for us at Little Gay Book, it's like I'm so grateful to those clients that believed in us early on.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Tear. Thank you.
All right, folks.
For sure. That's good.
Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.